my light at the end of the tunnel came after a year and a half of studying. It doesn't have to come for that long for you, because I ignored these kind of strategies for the longest time.
All right. Today we have a question from a listener or viewer from Emily. She asks, "Thank you for the podcast. I've found it so useful, and I enthusiastically and rather annoyingly talk about it to my husband all the time. You mentioned recently that the LSAT is in large part a reading test." True, cosign. "My speed reading, it turns out, creates so many opportunities to misread or miss a key word, especially in the stimulus. I've been trying Bailey's tip to read just a few words at a time, pausing in between. It's grueling for me, but it has helped a ton. Any other tips or approaches? I need all the help I can get. Thank you." It is definitely a reading test. I think that everyone should, it's always been a reading test, even with logic games. Like, it is at its core just about reading, right? It doesn't matter. Even though there's only one section called reading comprehension, it is at its core a literal reading
test.
Yeah.
They're literally just asking, can you read?
And you don't have enough time to read really complicated things. So this is like a very, Emily, it feels like you're sort of honing in on the key to a problem that a lot of people have, right? Which is just like, how do I read really dense things really quickly? So she talks about your tip. Do you want to just reiterate what that tip is?
Yes, yeah. So I noticed, like, when I was trying to read the LSAT, I would try to pause after every sentence or even after a whole paragraph, and then try to kind of understand what I was just reading, like get into my own words, get the gist of it. And then I realized that sort of approach was getting me to this not perfect understanding of what actually was being said. Like, maybe I would miss a specific keyword that, maybe I just overlooked because I had read the whole thing all at once. And that really changed the meaning of the sentence as a whole. So my recommendation is that you're literally pausing every couple words, like not even a whole, like to a comma, like every couple words. Get those into your own words. Like, make sure that you can actually translate those pretty precisely into your own words. It's going to take some time. Like, it's going to be kind of awkward at first. I always think about this as feeling like sandpaper on sandpaper. Like, it is going to feel really awkward, but you got to train yourself to get there. And so I'm glad that you've already been trying that. I'm glad it's already been working. Honestly, this might be kind of annoying advice, but like, keep going. Like, keep sticking the process. It's going to keep turning into something that's more of like a smooth strategy. And then slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Like, it's all going to come together by the end of it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
That I used to say in RC a lot is like, it's similar. I mean, again, it's along the same lines, but like, I would say, okay, like in your mind, reiterate everything you just read, paraphrase everything you just read, but don't wait till the period to do it, right? Because like the sentences are long, and in most pieces of writing, they would be broken up into multiple sentences. So what I would always say is like, the second that things get weird or confusing, just go reiterate what you just read. And that happens a lot. The second things get weird, like pause and go backwards, right? And this is all going to feel so slow and grueling until it doesn't, and it'll take a bit, but at some point it'll just click and it'll just become second nature. The other thing that I would have people do is like really try to be fully in dialogue with the text. So like writing almost like your stream of consciousness as you read an RC passage. Obviously, that is not a viable tool when you're taking the actual test, but people make the mistake of thinking that they need to study like they take the test, and not that you can't. No, and you are doing yourself a disservice if you try to do that. If it feels grueling and uncomfortable, like sandpaper on sandpaper, you're doing the right thing, and it just eventually it won't. Any other tips?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely didn't feel like that was a viable thing that was going to happen, right? Like, I didn't think that once I did that enough times, it was going to actually be smooth and like, I wasn't going to have to worry about it anymore. It was going to actually be a strategy that I could use on the test. It does. Trust me. Like, my light at the end of the tunnel came after a year and a half of studying. It doesn't have to come for that long for you, because I ignored these kind of strategies for the longest time. And so what I would recommend is just like sucking it up now, kind of retraining yourself into a different way of reading. Yeah, it'll take a little bit of time. The other thing that I was going to say is sometimes I just make students like, you can do this with just an LR stimulus and the question and the answer choices, for example, or do it with a whole RC passage if you really want to, train yourself. But sit yourself down and make yourself write down every single part of the stimulus, every single part of the question, every single part of the answer choice, fully in your own words, like Bailey's version of this specific LSAT question. You probably only have to do that kind of stuff a few times to be able to understand, okay, this is really what I'm supposed to be getting out of the read of these passages. then again, it'll keep going more smoothly in real time. So just trust that it's going to take a little bit to get there. You're probably not going to see the gains of these things right away, but you've already seen the gains of those strategies. You're going to be able to look back and however long it takes and be glad that you did these things.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and listen, we read very imprecisely in our normal lives. Every single word is just as important as the last one on the LSAT, you know? We don't allow the weight of like the literal definitions of words to like really hit in the way that we need to on the LSAT. Like if it says always, we mean always. We don't mean like most of the time. And if I say like, I'm always hungry at 4 o'clock, like when I'm talking to
actually means every single time it's 4 p.m., you're hungry.
Listen, there's some words on the LSAT that like are a struggle for any of us, but most of the words that actually matter the most are not the like $10 vocabulary words. They are the just like quantifiers, stuff like that. Always, never. Those words, you know the definition of that. Apply it fully. And that's, you know, it's a skill. It's a skill.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
Hopefully that helps, Emily. Great question. If anyone out there has any questions or suggestions, leave them on this video, leave them on another, and we'll answer them. Get them back to you. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.